I Saw the TV Glow is the new film directed by Jane Schoenbrun about a teenager named Owen living in the suburbs whose life is turned upside down when he's introduced to a late-night TV show called The Pink Opaque. This is a highly anticipated movie playing in the midnight section here at Sundance, the same section that debuted Jane Schoenbrun's first film, We're All Going to the World's Fair, which made a big splash a couple Sundances ago. We're here at Sundance covering the films. I'm your co-host, Zachary Shevich. We're joined by Amanda the Jedi and Arturo Zarita. And yeah, I think we all had this as one that we were very, very eager to see. Amanda, did this live up to your expectations, exceed them? How did you feel coming out of I Saw the TV Glow?
This has been an interesting one because I was really excited going into the fest. I wasn't huge on World Fair. I liked it, but I thought I personally saw a different execution.
Do you know he hated it? We
Yeah.
played it back before we came here because Alina didn't remember it. I remember liking it as well. Oh, he hates that intro, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah,
it's not a matter. It's not a matter of like qualitatively disliking or yeah. I just can't watch that stabbing moment. It disturbs me in a way that very few films disturb me, which may be a point in the film's favor.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So going into this, just based on that, I was like, I was excited to see what it was because for everything else, Jane's just has a very clear direction in what they're trying to put to screen, and I feel like this really encapsulated that. I know that it got a ton of hype coming out of the premiere from critics and audiences alike. I don't know if I quite hit the highs of them, but this is the movie I can't stop thinking about in like the positive way. All the little things that it does, just the really beautiful, but then like very disturbing ways it's engaging with the premise that it's dealing with, and just the idea of like how much time can be lost when you're concealing certain things, not to go into like details, but also just visually, this thing is firing on all cylinders. It's stunning. It feels very unique in how it's influencing things or how it's putting things into the movie itself. And the soundtrack is mind-blowingly good. That's like when everybody says we're waiting on that soundtrack, it's for very good reason.
Because it's a soundtrack.
It's an actual soundtrack. Like they got the budget and said, I'm just commissioning my favorite music artists for this, and that's why all of these music transitions are going to be as long as I want them to be, because I got these songs made for the movie and we're using every single one. So I respect so much of this. It's very good. Yeah.
Art?
I thought it was a lot better than the last one that they made. Visually, like you were saying, they do this thing where they're showing the show. Bro, no offense to your holdovers, but that's how you do it. That looked like they stripped it straight out of a 90s Disney Channel original movie. Mine was, I don't know if y'all remember So Weird.
Yeah, of course I remember.
Bro,
So Weird.
That was so weird. That was Goosebumps. And then I had another one, and I was like, no one's going to remember this movie.
Are You Afraid of the Dark? But
Can of Worms. And I hear Justice Smith mention Can of Worms, and I was like, this man knew what was up.
Yeah.
There were moments where they would cut to what would be, the present 90s for them. And it looked beautiful. It was crisp. There's these shots of the road that feel like Elm Street where it's all foggy. It's like nobody even lives there. The drawings that they have of the ghosts,
streets,
it all looked really crazy. And as they transition you into this world, like the audio of it, the crackling of the sounds, the mixing, a phone went off during the movie, and for the entire runtime of that phone ringing, I did not know if it was within the world or if it was someone in the...
it took 30 seconds for me to be like, that was a phone. That's actually someone behind us. Because they were like tripping out. They were trying to run. So I was like, okay, that was, yeah.
But no, all that was firing on all cylinders. And I also think that it's Justice Smith's best performance that the dude has ever given. There is a close-up to this man's face. And I was like, I don't know what you had to do to get to that spot, but he did it and he killed it.
And his voice, what he does with his voice.
He does.
He's got this whole thing with his voice that it's kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
But it's like in a good way.
It's like his beau is afraid.
Yeah.
That was my immediate comparison to it, because he feels so like hollowed out and tortured in this movie in the way that I think Joaquin inhabits in Beau is Afraid. And it's just a really wild and wildly inventive type of story, the way that it uses, as you mentioned, all this kind of like nostalgia tinged retro aesthetics, but also
not in a bad way.
No.
Like we're out of the 80s craze right now where everybody loved the 80s stuff no matter what it was, Stranger Things style, in my opinion. Now that we're in the 90s, it's like I'm worried that I'm going to fall into that bias, but this is like the setting,
right,
not the bait.
Yeah, and so much of it is sort of about looking back and about nostalgia and sort of the way these things sort of stick with you and
shape you.
Shape you, burrow underneath your skin is what I'm trying to say. And I think there's so much about this film that is absolutely burned in my mind, even if I didn't necessarily have like the most incredible experience watching it or something. Like I think there's maybe one or two other films I've seen at Sundance that I'd say right now that I maybe liked more. This is the one I'm most eager to rewatch because it's dense.
Oh, I have it on the schedule.
We were all literally like, if we had a link for that, we would have popped it on immediately the second we got home.
Yeah.
I mean, just in comparison to We're All Going to the World's Fair, since that's the one that most people probably have had the chance to see, you know, it definitely is a film that takes some chances and it has some experimental aspects to it, but it's significantly more I don't know.
In a room.
Yeah, it's significantly more ambitious and significantly more like the types of horror movies that you're experiencing. But it has all these interesting ideas too that make it a lot deeper than your typical film of this aesthetic or the film of this tone.
And still has Jane's voice. So if you liked World's Fair,
yes,
this is your number one. But like
Very
you just
creepy.
added as your watch list number one.
Yeah,
right.
It's going to live up for that. If you like the World's Fair, it's set. If you didn't like the World's Fair, I think there is a much bigger chance you will enjoy this one more.
I agree.
Because of the performances, because of, like you were saying, the soundtrack. I just think the visuals alone
I think the
are
execution
incredible.
too.
The execution of it as well. We kept talking about this being one of those movies where you come out of it and I wanted a little bit more. Like I wanted more.
Yes.
I wanted to know more about this character. I wanted him to fill and answer things about him, about his friend. Because I don't know if any of you want to kind of break down a little bit more of the premise of the relationship that's going on in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's this interesting thing in that Justice Smith's character Owen is introduced to the show, the Pink Opaque that we were talking about at the beginning, and
But he can't watch it.
But he can't watch it. His parents don't let him, and it ends up being this sort of gateway into uncovering new ideas about yourself and new sort of thoughts on how the world works, I guess. And I don't know,
even if you don't realize it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is through this relationship he has with the Maddie character, and how that develops. I don't know. It's a very, very interesting thing because I think it also, there's a relatable aspect to it in that you're being brought into a culture and you have this sort of wiser, older figure.
We're Maddies to some people.
Yeah, exactly. We try to be. So from this point out in the review, we start to talk a little bit more specifically about certain plot elements that might be like lightly spoilers for people who are trying to remain really like clear on the movie. But if you want to know more about the film, stick with us. We're going to get deeper into I Saw the TV Glow.
But then even Maddie, you can tell Maddie is having her own struggles that are very similar to the struggles that Owen's going to. Like you have moments where she just distinctly says things that are very vulnerable, and he doesn't even quite know how to respond.
He doesn't know what it means,
and then he'll say something that is just so incredibly profound in like just a casual passing conversation, and it really just kind of like gets to the heart of what the movie is. I do think it's really beautiful in the way that I think you can apply it to a lot of different things, but it does have a very clear vision of what you can tell it's going for. And the 90s setting really matters for that, I find. Just based on who Jane is as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
The topic of what Jane likes to deal with in film is like trans identity or just queer identity.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of this one too. And there's just like, it can just be applied to a lot of different aspects of your life because it really just comes down to like the toll it takes on you not to authentically live as yourself. So honestly, it's even doing the Love Me thing better than Love Me did, if I'm going to be completely honest. But then in a really horrific way, because it's showing you how far something can go by trying to deny this. And then that 90s setting specifically is if you feel this type of way and you don't know what it is, you don't have a reference for it because it isn't out there, you will spend the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life just dying inside. And that's what I mean. Being trans wasn't what it is today in the 90s. Even being gay wasn't what it is today, what it is in the 90s, which I can attest to there.
Well, according to Ted, episode
Ted.
1.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not using it as nostalgia. It's using it almost as a period piece to let you know what was going on.
Yeah. So that frames that future.
Yeah. There was no hashtags. Like there wasn't anything that he could just go and seek out. Like
and it's like subtle things too.
No, yeah,
Like
because for a long time, it's like culture is one of the few ways that like if you are, if you don't have a lot of people like you around you, you can see yourself in stories. You can, and if you even think about the ways in which queer people have reinterpolated stories that aren't necessarily distinctly queer, like it's an important
Cadet Kelly.
Exactly, like it's an important part of it's an important part of self-identity and discovering yourself. And I think this movie gets at that in a way that is really, really rare and really, really effective.
And in an even better way, because what you're saying right there is like queer people have always had to talk about other movies.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a queer movie that I think can connect to anybody. And that's the point. A lot of people is like, oh, well, I'm not gay, but hey, it was a good gay movie for you guys. You know, a movie's LGBT, even though it's a love story. It's like, no, but it's still a love story. It just encompasses this section of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw one review from a trans critic on Letterboxd, Willow, who said in their review that, you know, I think trans people can look at this film and say like cinema is for us. And that's a really amazing thing. I will say one thing that I brushed up against, just because we're talking about a film that has had like lots of effusive praise. People are talking about it as like this new masterpiece. I thought the film went to great lengths to explain itself. There's for a film that's as like visually dynamic and singular as this one is. It sort of stops to have the characters talk for long periods, and those were the moments where I started to not necessarily be quite on its wavelength as much. Not something that made me dislike the movie, but maybe kept it from being that like amazing experience that a lot of people are saying. But at the same time, I do kind of wonder, you know, if you take some of that away, is it an impenetrable film? Is it too hard to understand? So I don't know. It's something that maybe on a rewatch won't bother me as much.
That's fair. I think some of that is also just to really drive home some of the dissociation bits too.
But is it
like
not
getting into
hand-holding?
the lore, I don't know if it's handholding. I think it's because some of it's not. I think some of it, depending on the moments, I almost think it's leading you in the different direction. It's leading you down the literal sense versus the like, what is this?
That's a good point, because I was comparing it to like stress positions where she's been arguing about the narrator. I don't think the narrator is needed there at all. But she knew I need someone to walk them down, and now I'm presenting stress positions by letting people know it's okay. They're unlikable characters, and go from there.
Yeah, that's what you need. Yeah.
For Jane's, I don't even think the exposition was the issue for me. I think it was how long it was. That was the thing for me. I was like, I'm okay with you explaining this, especially because how you said it. Yeah. They're kind of trying to recount something. Is it even the truth? Are you even like getting to the truth of what, you know, their past was, or whatever it is that there's a very lengthy monologue that happens in the movie. And it looks cool.
It does.
I just thought it was a little too long.
I can agree on that.
And I will also be on the camp that I know y'all were very happy for some of the musical guests that were on there.
They were long.
They're long.
Like, it was just a music video. Does it look dope? Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But there's
one of them got the guy next to me. That was when he quit. Was
when she's screaming?
Sloppy Jane.
Was it Sloppy Jane or the one right after Sloppy Jane? Was it King?
Yeah, it was King Woman.
Whoever had the spikes on the hair. Yo, the guy next to me was like, nope, 90 minutes in, I'm gone. And I was just like, wait, this is what did it for you? But I can see that being the thing that I can see that being the thing that people want. Mainstream viewers. I can see that being the thing you watch that. The people who like these movies.
The people who like it will love it.
But the mainstream audiences will be like,
and I don't think this is for that.
I found it indulgent.
For sure.
And I'm okay, but I was okay with the indulgence. But maybe if it was like country twang, I'd be like, for the love of God.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Because then you'd be like, oh, I don't want this director's indulgence.
Yeah, like we don't have a problem with Phoebe Bridgers showing up for a few minutes. But
exactly. Yeah. So that's I just feel the same thing for the monologue's length. And like you were saying, they took advantage of like, I'm gonna get a budget. Yeah. I'm gonna use this budget. Yeah, that's raw. That's cool.
It's cool.
But like, damn, after the certain one, I was like, this is a music video. This is like a good compilation of them. No, they'll be in the middle of a speech. Yeah. And then the concert will go. Right. And then they'll come back to it. And it's like, I respect it. It
interrupted the flow of the movie.
It was a little long.
Yeah. I liked it. But
it was cool. I don't hate it.
No, I get it. And I don't know. I just think that all adds into the style of what makes this thing feel so unique for what it is and very cool. The
tattoo bit. Cool. Yeah, I'll give it that. You do need a good soundtrack. And I think that's bigger than using the nostalgia of the 90s. It's also understanding what gets something to be a cult classic, a cult hit. We were describing this word as well. What does cult classic mean nowadays? But
this already beats like it can't be it.
No, it's like the iconography of the ghost tattoo is like so clean.
It's so cool.
I'm like,
people are gonna get that.
Yeah, like you've seen people with these Harry Potter tattoos, and we were talking about Supernatural yesterday, and we see people with all these tattoos, and I'm like, this literally like gives you the position of where to put the tattoo with your friends. You can get glow ink. And it looks so, I don't know, it felt cool. You got a soundtrack to go with it. And then these visuals. There's a supermarket shot that is stuck with me with the American flags in the back. There's a TV glow shot. Yeah. I know. Yeah. That was sick. And there's a shot with his mom where she enters the house and has to stare at the stairs or at the living room. What was Jane cooking? I was like, yo, this is good stuff right here. So there's a screening at the Ray. And if anybody wants to go to the race screening on the 23rd, I think that this may be the one movie we're rewatching at the fest.
Yeah, it could happen. Like, I'm strongly considering.
But I'm with you. There's a lot of things that were like holding it back from me. I wanted to praise it like everybody else, but I'm like.
At the same time, I do wonder, like, you know, we're experiencing these movies in a way where we're like binging them, and we come in with a lot of expectations too, because festival hype gets really loud, and also just this is a weird story. This is an atypical story.
Yeah,
and I think
atypical.
Brigette Lundy-Paine. But I think, like, you know, if you look at, it doesn't have like this a typical like 3-act arc that you would expect, right? It the way that it's chaptered,
but it's
chaptered, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but I like it.
It works for what the movie is trying to say. It is in it's thematically like appropriate. It's just like maybe on that first watch when you have some certain expectations or you have some maybe hopes for it, you feel that difference, and then when we rewatch it a couple days on the right, we'll appreciate it for the masterpiece it might be.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because I do think that if we had managed to get into that premiere, maybe we would be singing, because I do think that maybe you see praise and you start, your brain, whether you want it to or not, starts mixing things in different ways and maybe anticipating something different. It's not so different from what I expected, but it's the one I'm very excited to revisit. It is already gone up like a 0.5-star rating for me.
After our talks yesterday, you figure it out after you see the movie.
It's when I can't
think you know what you like until you come back to eat a burrito.
Yeah.
You reheat your
and
stuff.
You're thinking, it's what you're thinking
about. And you forget to pick up Zach and Caitlin because you're too busy arguing about it. And that's when you know you gotta move.
Yeah,
it's okay. It wasn't that cold.
We told you to go cook. We told you to go. You were shopping. It's fine.
Found him at a snowbank.
Yeah, snowbank. No, I just do think it's a lot. I just think it's really beautiful, and I think I'm going to shout out the David Ehrlich review where he's not even his proper one, which was really good, but his just quick one on Twitter where it was like, I'm so happy that people will have this movie, and it's the people who need this movie are going to have it, and not in the like, kumbaya, I'm so happy that people will have this. No, this is like a cool,
this
fucking
is not a
authentic
Christian movie where like you need to text everybody afterwards because they tell you that this is a part of the movement.
Yeah.
This feels like a film.
This is a cool,
this feels
authentic
like a film.
Experience that it's telling a story, but it's universally accessible.
David Lynch promised it.
And I'm going to say, like, I don't think there's anybody, at least if you hit a certain age, I don't think there's anybody who isn't going to relate with that point of like, you know, years are suddenly gone. It felt like literally I went into a black hole of time.
That was scary, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I don't like that,
poetry.
But like that's a gut punch.
It's poems. Like
there's some really, really incredible lines, and I think part of what you're talking about too is like this is a really exciting thing to get in terms of Jane Schoenbrun's evolution, because We're All Going to the World's Fair is a really interesting film. We all had our reservations with it, but it obviously like they're working on a really distinct level, and they understood it. Yeah,
like they understood what was happening in the World's Fair, and that's the thing. Even when you watch this movie, it's like I'm not catching along, but I trust you. Like, look at those posters in the back of the school. Look at the name of the school.
Yeah, that was the big one.
So many interesting things there.
So much interesting.
It not only begs for a rewatch, but it knows what it's doing.
This is a big stepping up of their game. Like this is a announcement of like a significant filmmaker who we're going to continue to hear from. Yes,
you have a voice.
Yes.
And that's when I think it's like the more I think about this movie, it's the more I dislike Love Me. It's like weird. They're not similar in any way, shape, or form, but it's just. It's and some of that's the festival's fault, just how they've been presenting things. Mm-hmm. So no shade, but like it's just this is really good, and I'm excited for the people that are gonna get it. And it's just always really exciting to see filmmakers that have such a voice, even if it doesn't always work for you, because you know they're only gonna get better.
Yeah.
And to have, in my opinion, increased this much movie over movie is like pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. So,
do you guys have a favorite scene or quote that you can keep a little cryptic?
I do like the one, it's like that whole kind of moment where he's talking about like, I even got a family too. And then it's just like the minutes turned to like that whole section there. I was like, that's a gut punch. That
was a gut punch.
Yeah. And then the moment in the happy birthday scene.
Yeah. The happy birthday scene is a standout.
Oh, and scoop out your insides. That's not a gross scene. It's just it's just.
So Amanda's is 000 2 timestamp. How long's the movie?
yeah, pretty much.
No, I mean a lot, and without getting into some specifics, there's a couple like really brief shots, kind of when like the intensity has gone up a level, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about because they only last for a moment.
Yeah,
but it's burned into my brain.
Oh,
yeah. More.
I feel like I could recreate.
Do you have one? Do you have one? Mine is obviously there's one with Justice and the TV.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the one that I was even considering using as like our intro for this video.
Damn, bro. I wish there was a still of that one. That one was crazy.
That would have been amazing still. for
That's
this
an
movie.
amazing one. I like the line. I won't even finish it, but he goes, "I don't even have my learner's permit. How can I have a?"
Yes.
I won't even finish the last one, so y'all can go see the movie. But I loved that line. Same thing like you were saying with a bunch of the just really quick shots that makes you want it more. You get Grace with such a beautiful image, and you're like, "Wait, that's it? We're moving on to the next one."
Right.
I thought though, again, with the way that they were doing the what's the name of the show again?
Pink Opaque.
The way that they broadcast that show looked very much like Goosebumps, and then they had like this like killer ice cream man as the villain of the week for one of them, and I was like, this is too scary. This makes no sense, bro. You got to get this out of here. But they play with that too. The idea of when the show and when the movies world. I'm just gonna leave it like that. The way they use the aspect ratios between the both of them, I think, is very, very clever. I heard one of y'all saying it behind me, but Madeline was in this movie, no?
Yeah.
Okay, she was one of the
Isabel.
from the duo.
In the Pink Opaque,
because I saw them. So again, if you're a Madeline fan, I mean, you got an alum working in there as well. I had one more thing that I was gonna say. I cannot remember what it was. Oh yeah, so much praise for this movie. I think we all recommend it. We have to say something negative. My man Justice Smith had a 5 o'clock shadow playing a younger version of himself.
Yeah. They ask you to sort of stretch your
It's tiny
believability
but
for
if I had one
I think at
How-
that point they probably
what
just
ages
should've-
he can play. Yeah.
I was just gonna say they should have used him the whole time. Then, if you're gonna do that, because like Brigette
I like the little kid.
I did like
That
I did.
Zootopia
I
shot
like the little
with
kid.
The little kid was
yeah,
raw.
I just feel like I'm like in 2 years that kid is not becoming Justice Smith.
He's not becoming Justice
But
Smith.
and then it kind of felt weird because Brigette Lundy-Paine just got to be Maddie the whole time.
Right.
They
But
pulled it off.
also
They pulled it
had-
off.
Their character's supposed to be 2 years older.
2 years older. But just they can pull off the like looking smaller to be the younger version at 14.
No, if it's a
but-
film that if you are sort of nitpicky about like actors not looking the right age, like you might have some issues with it, but I don't
It doesn't matter, especially when you're really looking at what the movie is talking about and addressing and going through. It almost feels like it's like a feature, especially when you start thinking about that time loss, just all of that.
It's
I
also
think it
that
works.
I think Justice Smith's performance really sells
It
it.
was I agree.
I ended up going 3.5, but I suspect that I'm going to raise that to 4 stars on my rewatch.
I've already done
think
that.
so.
I started at 3.5, and then it was just the more I'm thinking about it, and the more that I think it's like the core messages you take away, and just being so excited to revisit it earned it that like for me
Absolutely.
that extra bump up for me.
Your boy was in it too.
Oh yeah, Connor O'Malley makes
Jump scare.
a surprise appearance in the film. He's really good in it.
He just acts like himself.
Yeah, I mean he's well cast.
Is that the
Look at me, what did I do?
is that the dude?
The manager or
yeah,
whatever.
the
Manager?
I can hook you up with.
Great opening scene with him as well.
I know, right?
Fred Durst, small role in this film.
You will not
Blink and you miss it?
recognize. You will not recognize that it's Fred Durst.
Yeah, because y'all said it was
the dad.
Yeah.
You will not recognize it.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot to like about this movie. It's the movie that we are spending the most time talking about. We're going to continue spending time talking about it.
We skipped a screening just to talk about this movie.
Yeah,
right now.
like kind of.
we'll come back with our recaps of the fest, and I bet we're all going to have even more to say about this one too. But just as our first review, I mean, I think we're highly recommending people check it out. It's obviously going to be maybe too much for certain
I would agree.
mainstream audiences, but I don't think they're necessarily
They don't care.
caring about it. Yeah, there's a section of people who are going to be really, really just over the moon that they
Yeah.
got this, and so it's
They
I don't
already
know.
got one with
It's
World's
so
Fair.
unique.
Yeah,
Now the fan base is going to grow.
Yeah, I just want to say it is like very nice and refreshing that like we've kind of gotten out of the stage of having to hide things like the L word and movies that are like really bad with like age gap relationships and gay things, and you have to like fucking hide that shit in your closet.
What's the L word?
We'll have a talk after
Show
this.
the L word.
We're gonna have to talk after this.
Do you not know what the L? Are you? Please
What's the
tell
L word? Maybe a viewer doesn't know.
The L Word is like the iconic lesbian show that is toxic as hell, and I used to hide the box sets in my closet, Art.
Oh, I thought they couldn't say an L word. I apologize. I thought there was an L word. What if I said it in the review?
It's just like it's Scott Pilgrim. It's lesbians,
she
okay?
really
You know?
hated Love Me, if you can't tell.
No, but it's really refreshing that like kids can just find this stuff like more accessible. Teenagers, it's like going to be so accessible to them and not something that like they have to hide.
Absolutely.
The way the movie shows it, there's no streaming password you could just borrow for him to have caught up with the show.
Yeah,
and it really uses that era and what they had to do, like, just at its peak.
The specificity of some of the cultural references.
Oh,
is
yeah,
really what
no,
makes
it's
it.
so good.
I don't care about, like,
the font.
the universal.
The font on the show, everyone got it. Everyone got it. Everyone got it.
The written and directed by.
So good.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, and it's also a thing, like, I'm seeing a lot of people responding to things that I didn't even catch, because, like, I'm not a Smashing Pumpkins fan, but apparently there's a lot of Smashing Pumpkins references in this.
There is, yeah.
Really monumental film. I think we're all really excited that we caught it, even if we're not necessarily, like, the biggest celebrators of it. We're
in your
I think we're getting there.
In your wavelength game, I think we're, like, right there.
We're getting there. We're
People
getting
are, like,
there.
right here, but we're there.
I think you said this is your favorite film you've seen so far. It's on, that's right.
Well, I just did that to mess with you guys, and then I kind of broke your heart. But it is in the top 3 right now.
Yeah, we're 2 days in, so it's still.
We're 2 days in. I think we're all at almost 10-ish a piece. Obviously, that's what, a 5th, 6th, 7th of what we're gonna see.
It's not,
but this is definitely gonna be one that we're gonna be talking about throughout the fest. One that I do think is gonna be one to rewatch before we leave, because we don't know the release date on this. We know it's picked up by A24.
Yep.
And all I can say is whatever theater you watch this in, we saw it with press, which is always going to be a different experience to seeing it with an audience, you know?
Not a lot of walkouts, but enough walkouts that you're like,
there
why
was
are you
walkouts.
even
I was like,
here?
why did you come to this movie?
like
I always feel like
78
they're more industry walkouts than
Yeah, I
press
know.
walkouts.
It's like, why you're 78 years old. Why are you here?
If you're going to praise public screenings for people who paid money to see this movie and you can feel their energy, you also get it drained when you go to a press screening and you're like, I know people who didn't get into this thing, and you're just going to walk out of it.
I hate
and,
yeah,
like,
that's what I
rude
hate.
In the middle of, like, a really good scene.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that.
So point being, I think it's going to be even better the second time, because I think it's playing at the Ray. And the audio in this, I know people are waiting for this Alex G score / soundtrack.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I know their first film
What?
was one that most people discovered on their laptops, but I hope this is one that people venture out to the theater for, because unless you have like incredible sound at home, you are missing out on something.
I agree. I really agree.
Will we see a better produced, filmed audio film this year? Like, this is actually very impressive.
It's very impressive.
Like, that's how good that is, that even if you don't care for the story, you'll have to be like, yeah, there's like 20 frames in here that I'd print out.
No, it's sick.
It's truly haunting, nightmarish in some ways. It's going to stick with all of us, and yeah, we'll definitely report back more thoughts on I Saw the TV Glow.
Good 2-year hit for A24. Talk to Me first, and then this one. Really good. Yeah.
And we'll be here covering them all from 10:30 to 11 p.m. Central.
Every Saturday. It is Saturday.
Hey.